let me say what this is really all about. We did this before in Dorchester a month or so ago, and while there is always a fear that soufflés don't rise twice, it was a wonderful evening, and it was wonderful primarily because of the contributions of people who came. The point of all of this is a sort of exercise in Athenian democracy, so that people can come up with both what they want to complain about in terms of what's going on in local politics or even broader politics.
My name is Mike Farmer. The aim of this meeting is to consider the effect of the West Dorset District Council's cabinet style of local government. In planning matters, I feel that the District Council has failed as an effective organ of local government with, at its heart, an essential contradiction whereby uninterested councillors from elsewhere are asked to make vital local decisions. Despite being more or less well served by their local government officers, the results are often a failure because of a lack of any real consultation, ignoring comments from the public, a tendency to go against the advice of their own officers, and a very evident wish to follow the party line despite very strong and numerous objections.
Should we look for individuals? And a district council ward is small enough to find, a community leader, a youth leader, or someone who is respected in their community, and say, well, I'm going to stand, and my first obligation is to the people in the community, not to a political party. Can I have your vote? I would certainly go out on the stump and knock on doors and say, please vote independent for someone who's from our community, lives in our community. That would help if all candidates actually lived in their ward, and see what would happen. But there might be no appetite. People might say, no, we'll carry on voting for the political party. I'd quite like to say, should local government still be dominated by national politics, by the Westminster parties? Or should it be about local people choosing local people to represent local interests?
It's just struck me how silence is used so strongly in West Dorset District Council. There are lots of rules, lots of government rules and so on, and many of those are abided by, but it's the spirit in which it's handled that I think is totally wrong. The tripartite agreement was just mentioned. 32 Conservative councillors discussed that, or could have done, at the council meeting where there were about 6 members of the public in early January. Of those 32, how many do you think discussed and debated that from the Conservative side? I'll tell you. 2. Duh. The other 30 stayed silent, despite the cries from the other side of the House, saying, please, let's debate, let's have a debate, let's discuss it. And there's this sort of control that I think is absolutely wrong. This is why we must get that petition through and change this cabinet government into a committee government as a very first stage.
Explain your petition. What's that all about?
The petition, we require 5% under the Localism Act of 2011, to 5% of the West Dorset electoral people to sign a petition, which will then lead to a referendum, and that referendum needs a simple majority in order to move us from a cabinet to a committee-style government. Just a word on the cabinet style. As you know, the leading party, for instance, gets 43% of the votes. The leader of that group can then handpick 6 colleagues, friends, politicians, whatever you call them, as the cabinet. And they basically decide everything. How the Lib Dems and how the Independents and the others keep going, I do not know.
Just briefly, could I just put a question to Mr. Letwin, very specially, as there's nobody else from the Conservative part of the council available.
Do you mind having a question put to you? Go ahead.
I put it to you that the public's mistrust of our district council is now seriously deteriorating. What would you do to make the Conservative-led council more democratic and accountable?
It seems slightly unfair on the other candidates. If other people want to answer as well, please do. First of all, I have absolutely no particular view about the way that our district council should be arranged, and if the people of West Dorset, not just people who happen to be in this room at the moment, which is not a democratic sample, but actually in a referendum, chose to move to a committee system, which it used to be, rather than a cabinet system, fine with me. I mean, people can make up their mind over time. The truth is, if you take a balanced view, that there are advantages and disadvantages both ways. The advantage of the cabinet system is that you get clearer and quicker decision-making, and it's easier to take tough decisions. Okay, fine, but it's the case, which is why every country on earth runs a cabinet system. There are reasons for this. However, on the other side, the advantage of the committee system is that it gives everyone more of a chance to say their say, and it means that people can engage in more debate. And it's a question of whether you care more about having more openness and debate or more efficient decisions by the council.
If the district council is going to have councillors that are in proportion to the number of people voting, that would be great. But it feels like a stitch-up to me. At the best, it's complacent. At the worst, it's almost corrupt, what I've heard. I'm not very knowledgeable about lots of this, but people have spoke with a great deal of depth here tonight, and they know lots of things. And it seems to me that that district council is not being run properly. The only thing I do remember is when we, a few years ago, elected a councillor in Lyme Regis that wasn't a Tory. We all thought that was great. And we were then told that actually it was a bit of a waste of time because he'd get to the district and they have no influence whatsoever. So I said, why not? And I was explained about this 100% thing. So we asked the district, can that be changed? And they said no. So I'm just totally delighted we've got this petition because we'd been told years ago it wasn't possible to change. And it obviously is possible to change. So now we can have a petition and a referendum and get it changed. And let's all do that because we need it.
All right, very good.
Dave Rickard, Town Councillor in Bridport. I agree with an awful lot of what's been said, so I won't repeat any of that. I will say that Bridport Town Council runs a committee system, and although we do have one party which has more councillors than any other party, every councillor is free to speak at any committee. We make sure that every committee is proportionally represented, and when we have working groups, of which we have many, not only do we make those multi-party, but we also allow members of the public in as well, when it's appropriate. So that's a model that West Dorset could do. They could do it tomorrow.